A boy is alone in a room in Madurai. Nothing dramatic is happening. No thunder. No vision. No teacher standing over him. Just an ordinary afternoon, an ordinary body, an ordinary mind. Then, without warning, death enters the room, not as an idea, not as a philosophy, as a certainty. The boy feels, I am going to die. Most people would run, cry, pray, but this boy does something strange. He lies down, stiffens his limbs, holds his breath, and turns his own body into a corpse. Now he asks the question that will define his life. What dies? The body is silent. The body can be carried away. The body can be burned. But something remains aware of this. Something knows even the thought. Death has come. That boy was Venkataraman. The world would later call him Ramana Maharshi. And from that one encounter with death came one of the most direct spiritual questions ever given to humanity. Who am I? In the last video, Gurdjieff asked us to notice that the person we call I is not as solid as we imagine. One I wants discipline, another wants comfort. One I forgives, another quietly keeps the insult alive. For Gurdjieff, this was the beginning of self-observation, to see that the personality is a crowd pretending to be one person. But Ramana Maharshi takes the question even deeper. He does not begin by asking which I is speaking. He asks, what is this I in the first place? Every thought borrows the word I. I am afraid. I am angry. I want peace. I want enlightenment. But before following any of these thoughts, Maharshi turns attention toward the one who claims them. To whom has this thought appeared? The answer comes, to me. Then the blade goes deeper. Who am I? This is not a slogan. It is not a mantra to repeat mechanically. It is an inward turning of attention, back toward the source from which the feeling I arises. Before he became Ramana Maharshi, he was Venkataraman, born in Tiruchuli in Tamil Nadu in 1879. His childhood did not look like the childhood of a future world teacher. He was not known as a great scholar. He was not obsessed with philosophy. He was strong, athletic, and often indifferent to school. One strange trait stood out. His sleep was unusually deep. Other boys could move him, tease him, even beat him while he slept, and he would not wake. It was as if even then, something in him sank below the ordinary surface of life. Then, when he was 16, a relative mentioned one word, Arunachala. The name struck him like a spell. Arunachala was not yet a place he had seen. It was a sound, a pull, a mountain inside the heart. Later, he would say that from childhood, Arunachala had seemed to him something great, something mysterious, something immovable. Soon after, he read the lives of the Tamil Seva saints. Stories of devotion, renunciation, and total surrender stirred something in him. The boy who had seemed ordinary began to turn inward. But the real event was still waiting. One day in 1896, Venkataraman was alone in his uncle's house. He was healthy. Nothing was wrong with the body. Yet suddenly, a powerful fear of death seized him. He did not try to escape it. He entered it. He lay down and made the body still. He held the breath. He let the limbs become rigid. He allowed the imagination of death to become complete. This body dies, he saw. It can be carried to the burning ground. It can be reduced to ash. But am I the body? The body was silent. The body was inert. Yet the sense of I did not vanish. Awareness remained. The living presence that knew the body was not itself a body. This was not a long philosophical argument. Later, when Maharshi described it, it sounded like reasoning. But he insisted that the truth came in a flash. The fear of death disappeared. Something remained, steady and self-shining, like a fundamental note underneath every other sound. The boy did not become spiritual by collecting beliefs. He did not study himself into awakening. He looked directly at death and discovered that the I he truly was could not be touched by it. From that day, the old life began to fall away. After the death experience, Venkataraman changed. The things that once mattered no longer held him. School became empty. Family life became distant. He spent time in inward absorption and visited the temple with tears rising before the images of gods and saints. Then came the moment of departure. His elder brother rebuked him for behaving like a yogi while still pretending to study. The words struck home. Why pretend? The old life was already gone. On August 29, 1896, the boy left home. He took only enough money for the journey and left a note behind. He did not write like someone running away in rebellion. He wrote as though the body itself had been sent on a sacred errand. The journey was not smooth. He misread the route. He pawned his earrings for a few rupees. He ate what was given. He waited at stations. He moved toward the one word that had haunted him, Arunachala. On September 1st, 1896, he reached Tiruvannamalai. He went straight to the great temple of Arunachalesvara. The gates were open. The shrine was empty. He entered and stood before the Lord. The journey had ended, or perhaps the real journey had just begun. After reaching Arunachala, the boy disappeared into silence. He had not taken a formal vow. He simply had no inclination to speak. He stayed in the great temple, then in hidden places, even in an underground vault. He sat absorbed, unaware of insects, wounds, and boys who disturbed him. To the outside world, he seemed almost lost, but inwardly, he had found the immovable. Others began to notice. Some protected him, some fed him, some came with questions. Over time, the silent young ascetic became known as Brahmana Swami and later as Ramana Maharshi. Years passed. Caves on Arunachala became his home. Virupaksha Cave, Skandashram. Then, after his mother's death, the place near her tomb gradually became Sri Ramanashramam. People came from India and the West. Scholars, skeptics, devotees, ordinary villagers, grieving mothers, and seekers. Some came for answers, some came just to sit in the hall. Ramana's teaching was not only in words. Many felt that the deepest instruction was his silence. But when words were needed, he gave one method with diamond-like simplicity. Maharshi's method is called self-enquiry. But the phrase can sound dry, so let us make it simple. A thought appears. I am worried. Maharshi does not ask you to argue with the worry. He does not ask you to replace it with a positive thought. He asks, to whom has this worry appeared? The answer comes, to me. Another thought appears. I am angry. To whom has anger appeared? To me. Who am I? Another thought. I want awakening. To whom has that desire appeared? To me. Who am I? The point is not to answer intellectually. The point is to turn attention back toward the source of the I. In Maharshi's teaching, the mind is not a solid object. Apart from thoughts, there is no separate thing called mind. And of all thoughts, the I thought is the first. Only after I appears do you and the world appear. So, instead of cutting the branches, Maharshi goes to the root. Every thought depends on I. Find the source of I, and the whole structure begins to lose its force. The question, who am I, is like a stick used to stir a fire. It burns other thoughts. Then it too is burned. What remains is not a new belief, but silence. Not unconscious silence, living silence. Awareness, aware of itself. Some later conversations associated with Maharshi use a beautiful phrase, aham sphurana, the shining or vibration of I. This does not mean the noisy ego saying I. It points to something subtler, the living sense of being before it becomes a person, before it becomes a story, before it becomes I am this or I am that. Usually, the I rushes outward. I want, I fear, I remember, I compare, I defend. But if attention becomes quiet, the I can be felt before it becomes attached to any object. Not I am successful, not I am spiritual, not I am wounded, not I am the body. Just I am. Even this is not the final truth as an idea. It is a doorway, a scent from the source, a trembling of awareness before the mind turns it into identity. Maharshi's invitation is simple. Do not run outward with every thought. Turn back. Stay near the source. Let the false I lose its hunger. Maharshi's path is often remembered as self-enquiry, but there is another word that appears again and again around his teaching: surrender. For some people, asking, "Who am I?" feels direct. For others, the heart moves more naturally toward giving everything to God, to Arunachala, to the self. But surrender is not merely saying, "I surrender." It is not a spiritual performance. It means the grip of the separate I begins to loosen. My plan, my fear, my image, my demand that life obey me. Inquiry asks, who is this I? Surrender says, let this I be given up. One cuts the root by looking, the other melts the root by love. For Maharshi, both point to the same silence.